Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet. I'm going back to something. I'm going back to an old friend that I've had for 20 years. I'm spending time programming Noble Ape, and I'll tell you what I'm programming currently. The cognitive simulation of Noble Ape historically, for 20 years at least, has been a simulation which has put two ideas together, fear and desire, two different mathematical ideas, two different mathematical formulae that work together to create the cognitive simulation, which looks a little bit like a plasma simulation, a quantum electrodynamics simulation, something like that. That's been there for about 20 years. It's been the standard. It's what Apple initially used and Intel used, associated with their vector processor optimization. That, I think, I'm going to be moving to the side. I'm not going to be discarding the code. I'm just not going to be using the code going forward because I'm interested in something else. I'm interested in the brain code. Specifically in the notion that the brain code should be able to do something which machine learning, or at least, neural network vision learning, facial matching, facial recognition, this stuff is done through neural networks relatively easily, and I think the same should be possible with the brain code. So the brain code comes from bytecode, which predates Tierra. You can look at Code Wars, Red Code, all this kind of stuff. Tierra, Avida, these artificial life simulations that have used bytecode similar to brain code. But they've never actually been able to do what they're supposed to in terms of encoding information over time that can evolve and hold information for periods of time, like the facial matching. The ability to hold what a face looks like, so if you show a face that's similar, the code will be able to recognize that and say, yes, that's a similar face. Unfortunately, the hope was that this kind of brain code would be able to do things like that, but it's never actually been possible to do it with this code. So my interest is to develop a brain code that will do something like that for the Noble Apes, that will actually provide the stuff that was always been promised, it's never actually been properly delivered upon. And in doing this, this is actually an interesting problem because it means things like language analysis, and a problem was put to me recently associated with infant learning, which I think if the brain code was in a state where it could actually recognize patterns and take patterns away and communicate patterns and this kind of stuff, this is important. And the nature of language as it exists, and language as it exists as a processing of information, these are two very separate ideas which are somewhat concatenated with the brain code currently, but this is what is inspiring me currently in the early hours of the morning when I cannot sleep due to a variety of different factors. This is when I'm doing the Noble Ape development currently. So you might say, Tom, you have numerous other projects. How can you possibly fit this project in to your amazingly busy schedule of many podcasts, many different ideas, your full-time work week, your Dungeons & Dragons game, your community service? How is it all possible? Well, we'll discuss that in future Short Funks. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.